Last year I made a video on the 2022 Phillies experiment, where the Phillies decided that the best way to build their team was to go all in on offense at the detriment of their defense. It's safe to say it worked out quite well for them.
Castellanos up, and the Philadelphia Phillies are going to the World Series!
DRS and UZR are advanced stats with the goal of quantifying a player's entire defensive performance by attempting to measure how many runs a defender saved. The 2021 Phillies arguably had the league's worst defense, and there was a strong possibility the 2022 team would be even worse. This didn't end up happening, but typically teams with both a negative DRS and UZR don't reach the World Series. Out of the 40 World Series teams since 2003, only 7 of them had both a negative UZR and DRS. The 2003 Yankees are the worst defensive team here, and the 2004 Red Sox are the worst to win a championship. However, if the Yankees didn't lose 4 in a row in the 2004 ALCS, they would sit at the top of this list. The Yankees teams of this era clearly had a pattern of neglecting defense, and with the added bonus of losing a playoff series to their most heated rivals, this gave the front office even more incentive to go all in 2005. A team now known as the worst defensive team in the history of the DRS and UZR era. The 2005 Yankees embodied the risky philosophy that outspending everyone else will lead to success, a philosophy held by longtime owner George Steinbrenner. Perhaps the most well-known owner in MLB history, the Yankees won 11 American League pennants and 7 World Series titles under Steinbrenner's ownership, most notably in the late 90s. However, the main architect of those teams was GM Gene Michael, who, unlike Steinbrenner, wanted to build a team with a great farm system rather than free agency. Michael was given the opportunity to do this when Steinbrenner was banned from baseball in the early 90s. Notably, he brought in 4 prospects who turned into stars: Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Jorge Posada, and Andy Pettitte, also known as the Core 4. Still, Steinbrenner's reputation for being impatient could have easily threatened this dynasty from ever happening. For example, there were a few times where the Yankees owner wanted to trade center fielder Bernie Williams, but he ended up becoming a key member of these championship runs. While Steinbrenner's tendency to throw money around meant he had spent more than any other owner since free agency began in the 70s, it was rooted from impatience and the hatred of losing.
Are you a graceful loser?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm like a Yankee fan. My foot has gone through a number of television sets in my time. I bleed like those guys out there do, the fans. I mean, they hate to see you lose, and I hate to lose.
You just knew when Steinbrenner saw the Red Sox become champions, he was going to completely change his team. The Yankees had been increasing payroll for quite a few years, going from $92 million in 2000 to $182 million in 2004. Well, that's what happens when you sign Jason Giambi, Mike Mussina, and trade for Alex Rodriguez. Still, with the majority of the Yankees starting pitchers being over 30 years old, Steinbrenner wanted to add younger pitchers to the rotation. Jarrett Wright and Carl Pavano both signed multi-year deals after successful 2004 seasons. However, neither pitcher had a history of producing these types of numbers before 2004. Also, what if I were to tell you that the team was looking to add someone older than every starter in the 2004 rotation to be the 2005 ace? Sounds crazy, right? Well, that's what they did by trading for Randy Johnson and signing him to a 2-year, $32 million extension. Johnson did finish second in 2004 NL Cy Young voting, but Yankees fans had seen old starters like David Wells, Orlando Hernandez, and Kevin Brown collapse in recent seasons. Also, a consequence of this deal meant they were now against offering a contract to the headliner of this free agency class, Carlos Beltran. The 27-year-old center fielder was coming off a near 40-40 season, and many thought he'd be the successor to Bernie Williams, who was now 35 years old. However, after acquiring Johnson, the Yankees payroll surpassed $200 million, the first $200 million payroll in baseball history. After paying $25 million in luxury tax in 2004, even if they accepted the discounted price of 6 years, $100 million offered by agent Scott Boras, they would have had a luxury tax bill of $40 million. So Beltran ended up signing with the Mets instead. On one hand, the Yankees didn't need Beltran's offense to be successful. but he was a clear defensive upgrade. Still, the team had accomplished their goal of adding younger starting pitchers, but it came at the price of enormous expectations. Not just from Steinbrenner, but in the context of how much they outspent the rest of the league. Excluding luxury tax penalties, the 2005 Yankees paid somewhere between $205 million and $210 million in payroll. Not only were the Yankees paying nearly 3 times the league average payroll of $73 million, they made up over 10% of the league's entire payroll. This was it. It was the ultimate boom or bust experiment. In the season opener against the Red Sox, the Yankees dominated as Randy Johnson allowed 1 run in 6 innings, Hideki Matsui robbed a home run, and then hit a home run of his own, leading to a Yankees win. The following day, Derek Jeter hit a walk-off home run, but this was after a blown save by Mariano Rivera. In Game 3, Rivera blew another save opportunity, this time following an Alex Rodriguez error. The Yankees came out of this series with a 2-1 record, but problems were already beginning to arise. Fast forward 1 month to May 6th, and the Yankees were tied for last in the AL East with an 11-19 record, their worst start to a season in nearly 40 years. It's unbelievable to me that the highest paid team in baseball would start the season in such a deep funk. They are not playing like true Yankees. They have the talent to win, and they're not winning. A quote by Steinbrenner just 2 weeks into the season. So what was going on? Well, the revamped pitching staff was below average at best, and the awful defense was making everything worse, as seen with the difference in team ERA and FIP. As for the hitters, it was an above average group, but that wasn't nearly enough. On an individual basis, A-Rod was leading the league in home runs, and guys like Jeter and Sheffield were playing well too. But Giambi wasn't getting paid to just get on base, and Matsui's power was sorely missed. This was a roster that desperately needed some youth. So the team called up starting pitcher Chen-Ming Wang and second baseman Robinson Cano. Well, not too long after, the Yankees' fortunes began to turn for the better.
Hit deep to left field. Fair ball, it's gone. Oh, it's gone. See ya. A 3-run home run into the left field upper deck.
Between May 7th and the 27th, the Yankees went 16-2 with arguably the league's best offense and pitching staff. With their win against the Red Sox on the 27th, the Yankees were only 3.5 games out of first place. However, they went on to lose the following day 17-1, lose the series against the Red Sox, and bounce between 3rd and 4th place until the All-Star break. At this point, it was clear the offense wasn't the problem. The defense was abysmal as expected, but the pitching just wasn't good enough. Johnson, Mussina, and Wang were a solid trio, but they needed reinforcements to compete. Because of this, the Yankees made 2 deals before the trade deadline. They traded for starters Al Leiter and Sean Chacon. Also, starting pitcher Aaron Small was called up to the roster as the newest member of the pitching merry-go-round. These weren't exciting moves at the time, but the team surged with life in August, their best month of the season so far. Now there was confidence this team could not only obtain a wildcard spot, but surpass the Red Sox and win the division. Well, with the Yankees taking first place on September 21st, it seemed inevitable that this would be settled in the final series of the season. Yankees at Red Sox. In Game 1, the Yankees were only down by 1 heading into the 6th inning, but the Red Sox scored 3 more runs, with 2 of them being unearned because Jason Giambi made a bad throw to home plate, as Boston ultimately won the game 5-3. With 2 games left and these 2 teams being tied for first in the AL East, as well as Cleveland being right behind them in the wildcard race, there was still a scenario where the Yankees end up missing the playoffs. But they began Game 2 with 6 runs in the first 3 innings, giving the Yankees the chance to steal that coveted first place spot.
Here's a 1-2. Damon chops it to Rivera, waits for it, throws a fastball, and the Yankees for the 8th season in a row have won the AL East.
It should have been easier for a $200 million team, but the Yankees ended up doing what was expected of them by winning the AL East for the 8th season in a row. Now, this is where the real test begins. The Yankees were set to face the LA Angels, a team with only one star hitter, Vladimir Guerrero. However, they did have one of the league's best pitching staffs. Overall, they were basically the opposite of the Yankees. In Game 1, a first-inning bases-clearing double by rookie Robinson Cano and a great performance by the Yankees pitching staff led to a Game 1 victory. However, in Game 2, the Yankees defense showcased its shortcomings, as a sixth-inning error by A-Rod led to a game-tying single later in the inning. Then, in the 7th, an errant throw by Chien-Ming Wang led to a 2-run single, eventually giving the Angels the win. Back in New York for Game 3, even with Randy Johnson on the mound, this was a high-scoring back-and-forth game where the Angels eventually came out on top. Game 4 was do or die for the $200 million Yankees. Fortunately for them, a great start by Sean Chacon and a clutch inning-ending double play induced by Al Leiter allowed the offense to score 2 runs in the 7th, which led to a Mariano Rivera 6-out save. Now we have Game 5 in Anaheim. Game 1 winner Mike Mussina was set to face Bartolo Colon in a rematch. However, Colon was taken out of the game in the 2nd inning due to injury, which led to the Yankees scoring 2 runs. But in the bottom of the 2nd, Garrett Anderson led off with a solo home run. So it seemed like this game was going to turn into an offense-filled showdown like in Game 3. However, everything changed later in the inning.
In the air to right center field. Crosby on the move. He's there. The two collide, and the ball is free. 2 runs are going to score, and the Angels take the lead. To the left side might be 2. Figgins. Out. Out. To the right side. Erstad a diving stop. The flip. The Angels are going to the ALCS.
The $200 million experiment had failed. This team was the definition of World Series or bust, and all they had to show for it was tens of millions of dollars in luxury tax and revenue sharing payments. As was the case the entire season, the offense wasn't the problem. And if you're wondering how an offense that led the league in WRC Plus could be in the bottom 3rd in F-WAR, it's all because of defense. They were far and away the worst defensive team of the DRS and UZR era, which of course harmed their pitching staff as well. But bad defense didn't create a below-average pitching staff. Poor roster construction did. In total, 14 different pitchers started a game for the 2005 Yankees, tied for the 2nd most in the league. Individually, Johnson, Mussina, and Wang all played relatively well, and the additions of Sean Chacon and Aaron Small helped the team get through the 2nd half. Also, to be fair, Carl Pavano and Jarrett Wright were injured for big portions of the season. But the fact the $200 million team needed so many reinforcements and still finished as an average pitching staff at best is a failure in roster construction. Also, it wasn't just the starters. The bullpen was lacking too. Apart from Mariano Rivera and Tom Gordon, no other reliever had an ERA plus over 100. We were fooled into believing they'd overcome their mound deficiencies because of their explosive lineups. But when the 4 remaining postseason teams ranked in the top 5 in ERA, we're reminded that pitching rules. Overall, the 2005 Yankees were a lesson that recklessly throwing money around is not a surefire way to build a championship team. Not to say you can't win by outspending everyone, but if that team is filled with glaring weaknesses, those shortcomings will end up defining the team. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks for watching.